I'm Julia Davis, a film major who stumbled into the business world with no experience in 2006. I was able to fail enough to learn how to run a seven-figure business and have provided consulting services to over 200 individually owned companies. Through this podcast, I hope to provide some perspective on the growth and grit it takes to accomplish big goals and share some hard lessons I've had to learn along the way. Thanks for jumping onto the Growth and Grit podcast, where I'm talking about the 10 biggest mistakes I made while running my company. Today, I'm talking about mistake number 3 that I made. So if you missed mistakes number 1 and 2, check out the past 2 episodes. They talk about those first 2 mistakes that I made, and I'm talking about several more. There's probably more than 10. But the third big thing that I really did poorly when I first opened my business and was running my company is that I was accepting excuses. So when people would come back from a tough day, and I was in the direct sales industry, they come back from a tough day, or leaders would report, back to me at night, and they would say it was really this, or it was really that, or it was slow, or I didn't see anybody, or I wasn't able to do this or that, or whatever. The more time I was disconnected from the actual field portion of sales, the more I believe those excuses. And I would really think about them and be like, okay, they're probably right. I trust that this person's telling me the truth. When in reality, everybody has a different version of the truth. So what I figured out is, if I was in the field at least once a week doing the sales myself, the excuses tended to stop, because I was out there experiencing the same things that they were experiencing at least one time a week, even deep, deep, deep into my career. When I was brand new, I was out there 5 or 6 times a week. But when I was started to grow in my experience, it was really interesting, because when I was new running my business, people weren't necessarily giving me those excuses, because I was out there side by side with them, problem solving stuff and seeing it firsthand. So they knew they really couldn't bring that stuff to me. But the further disconnected I got from the field portion of sales and direct marketing, the more excuses would come up. So if you're in any business and you don't know what the ground level is doing, you're going to believe whatever they tell you, because you think things have changed or things are different. But what I came to realize is that a lot of stuff doesn't really change. And when I was able to go back out there and work side by side with the team again, it was usually like an easy fix, whether it was a conversation or it was verbiage we were using, or there was a negative that could easily be fixed with, someone with more knowledge or whatever on the product or campaign or whatever we were doing. Getting yourself out there to see firsthand what they're talking about is so crucial to your business's ability to succeed. Because the more you believe opinions over facts, the harder it is to run your company. And all I can believe is fact. All I can believe is what's on paper, what's actually happening. And I didn't know what was happening until I could go out there and experience it myself. So when someone would bring me a consistent negative from either a territory, a store, a campaign, something, the first thing I thought of immediately was to believe them. But as I grew in experience, what I realized is, instead of just believing what people say, let's write down all these things, because these things are valid. And then I'm going to go and try to experience this myself and see if it's an easy fix, something that I can adjust or, adapt or whatever. And knowing that someone's going to fact check your statements really creates a different environment in your business versus somebody that's never going to fact check your statements. So you, as the business owner, need to take total ownership over whatever you're doing, even all the excuses and negatives and reasons people are giving you that they can't succeed. And instead of just accepting those as the reality, look at it obviously in a way that's more logistical and say, okay, if I'm getting all of this information from these people, let me go out here and figure out if this is something that's actually happening and this is a true negative, or if this is something that can easily be solved, fixed, adjusted based on whatever factors I can put into play. And, there's certain things like the weather or things that we can't control that people would complain about or tell me was an issue. And a lot of times it was just lack of preparation. Like, it's going to be miserable if you don't have a warm coat on a cold day. It's going to be miserable if you don't have a hat on a cold day. Like, that's just a fact, right? So sometimes it was preparation. Sometimes, like, if it's a hurricane sweeping through your city, like, yeah, that's just an unexpected natural disaster that is very true and valid. But a lot of times the things and issues that people are bringing to you are sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes ways that people can justify not accomplishing what they meant to accomplish and still saving face. And it might be true for them, but doesn't mean it has to be true for you. And it doesn't mean it has to be the reality of the situation. So before you just blindly believe everything that people are telling you, go out and check it out for yourself. A lot of times it's true, and sometimes it's not. But either way, you don't really know unless you trial it out and test it out for yourself. So, my advice and avoiding this negative of just blindly believing everything everyone says, go try it. Try it for yourself. Get your feet on the ground, go back out there. And if you're in a business where you're out of touch with the entry level, get back in there and see if you can figure out what the pain points are and how you can solve them because that just builds a ton of respect, but also it keeps you in touch with whatever is going on in your business. If you want to send this to somebody and you think you could help them, please forward this message on. Also, click the subscribe button so you can be updated at the next time that I come out with a mistake that I made running my business in the first 10 years. Thanks so much for being on, guys. Have a great week. Every week on the Growth and Grit podcast, we bring you real stories and practical tools to help you thrive through challenges. If this resonates with you, make sure you subscribe, follow, and share this podcast with someone who could use it too. It only takes a second, but it would mean the world to us, and it keeps you plugged in to fresh inspiration.